Louisville, national champions, 1980.
The Cardinals have won the national championship.
75th NCAA college basketball champions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Third Banner Pod, episode 49. It is football transfer portal week, which is a big week for any recruiting fan, and we have a lot of information in store for you tonight. We will be joined in a little bit by Louisville Rivals publisher Ty Spalding, who is going to have the latest updates that he's getting in the portal, and I think you're going to want to tune in for that because he's got a lot of scoop to drop. I'm sure he gets updated very well. He's going to share what he can on here. Captain Hampton, good to see you. Couch House, good to see you. I'm also joined here tonight. I'm Kyle. I'm joined by Ty, and I'm joined by Patrick. So excited. I forgot to introduce you guys first. How y'all doing?
I'm pretty good, guys. Shuck it, man. Shuck it.
Yep. When life gets tough, just say shuck it.
When we beat UK next year, I'm going to say shuck my balls to all the UK fans.
It's as a dad joke, like as the king of dad jokes, and a last name like Shuck it's just there's so many potential possibilities that it's going to drive all of you guys nuts. Tron, good to see you, man. You're on time. Jeff, always good to see you, man. Dan, good to welcome to Third Banner Pod. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight in the portal. We also have the game of a lifetime to talk about later on in basketball versus Depaul. The entire college football universe is amped up and excited for that game because it's two juggernauts going head-to-head, two Goliaths in the college basketball world right now, two Titans. But with that being said, we're not going to get into that till later. We want to build up to that big game. Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah, man. You'd have to remind me what time that is on Saturday. That's how excited I am about it.
Yeah, and Ty just looks excited. I can tell how pumped he is.
I can't even contain my excitement. I don't know if you could tell. I can't contain it. I'm so ready. I may or may not be sleeping through that entire game, but we'll see.
That being said, guys, the transfer portal is hopping. Obviously, the big news right now is what happened yesterday. We landed our quarterback, at least who we think will end up being our quarterback. There's debate on are we going to land another quarterback or not. But as of right now, it looks like it's Tyler Shuck, 7th year college football senior Tyler Shuck, who joins us after playing at Oregon. He played at Texas Tech, has all the tools in the world from where I sit, can run the ball, has a cannon of an arm. He has the height, the build. The only question is, can he stay healthy? That's the one everybody – and it's not – I know people get annoyed by that. They get annoyed hearing, well, yeah, we've heard that. But I'm just saying that is the reason why he's not in the pros already. That is also the reason why he's on his third school. So you kind of have to bring it up. Doesn't mean he won't. I'm nervous about it. I'm a little leery because of the injuries, but I will say I hope it turns out like Michael Penix did at Washington, because before that – now – I'm not going to say he's Michael Penix. Michael Penix has always been a beast. But when he played at IU, he was awesome. He was incredible. And then the first time he got hit, he's out for the year every single time. Mm-hmm. So finally, IU did the same thing. They're like, all right, we're going to move on. So he says, all right, I'll go look around. And Washington said, this guy's a beast. If we can just take a chance on him being healthy, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, he's given them 2 completely healthy seasons in a row. So you never know. It can happen. Like I said, not Michael Penix. I'm not saying that as much as sometimes you roll the dice hoping that they finally catch, if you catch enough misfortune, maybe you get some good luck. And the good news is the fractures he's had, all those things are fully healable. It's not like he's had strains or tears, things that you have a much more difficult time recovering from, like an ACL, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see we have Ty kind of waiting in the background, so I'll keep what I gotta say real short and sweet. But when you look at Tyler Shuck, like it is apparent, you can see when you look at highlights and tape, he does have talent. Like he is a talented kid. The arm talent's there. He's actually very surprisingly mobile. Like he's got good wheels. It's just going to come down to health. I think he started 3 or 11 games in the last 3 years. So that's going to be the main thing. I know everybody's heard it a million times, and we'll see how it ends up. But the talent is there. The talent is there for sure. So
Yeah. NFL body too, NFL arm strength. Can he stay on the field and can he cut down some of the turnover issues he's had?
yeah,
I think those are the two big questions.
Right on. Well, guys, that being said, it is portal week, and if you want to talk about the portal and you want to get some updated information, I can't think of a better person to talk to right now than Louisville Rivals publisher Ty Spalding. So he is waiting. So without further ado, Ty, good to have you on here, man. How you doing?
Doing well, fellas. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Good. Yeah. So we got 2 ties. So I'm just going to call it Rivals tie and Canes tie.
I'm good with Kane's tie. I can live with that.
Oh, that being said, Ty, it sounds like there's a lot going on right now. Obviously, it's week 1 of the portal, and things are changing at a moment's notice, especially for all of us. It's new to everybody. It's new to coaches. It's new to players, and it's new to people like yourself who follow this stuff and have to keep up with it. So, tell us what's going on, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Kyle, you've admitted this, that, you're an instant gratification person, and I know a lot of us are, but, I just think, based on the conversations that I've had, I really kind of got a good feel of the lay of the land tonight. And I posted on the board maybe a week or 2 ago that I think this is going to be a massive haul, and things kind of went quiet, and the names surfacing kind of slowed down. But I feel very good about where things stand tonight. Just with Louisville and who they're in on, and the position that this staff is in, I think that's kind of the one thing that was reiterated to me. Like last year, Louisville staff, they were just getting in place when the portal opened. They put this roster together kind of on the fly, and they had to take kids that really hadn't produced at their last stop. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's some of the transfers they took. They didn't have proven production at their last spot, at their last school. And I think this time around, you're going to see, the guys they take are going to be guys that produced at their previous school. So I think, just generally speaking, the conversation that I had tonight, I feel very good about where Louisville is with the portal. I think what you saw in the ACC Championship, as far as a talent and athleticism standpoint, without getting into the ins and outs of the chances that Louisville had, it was pretty obvious that Florida State, they just had more dudes than Louisville did. I think that's kind of the easiest way to break that game down. And I'm not saying Louisville's going to have Florida State talent next year, but I think that gap is going to be closed in a pretty significant way. So yeah, that's kind of just more of an opening statement from a general perspective there. But yeah, I was able to kind of talk to some folks tonight, and a lot of this stuff, it's a lot of it is, for Louisville's sake and my sake, a lot of this stuff you don't want to put out there. You don't want to spook a kid. There's stuff going on behind the scenes, and I know it's kind of a cop out, but it's reality. There's just some stuff that you just have to wait on it and wait for it to happen. And that's the same with players returning that are on this current roster. I think there's probably 3 or 4 guys that I had no idea that they were even a possibility to return, that I think could and probably will return. So when you factor in the portal and the people that still have another year of eligibility that want to come back, I think Louisville's in a great spot, and I'm very excited for what's to come here.
That's great, man. I guess my first question would be, as far as what positions or what do you think they're hitting the hardest right now in the portal? Like, what are they looking for right now, position wise, and what kind of player for said position?
Yeah, so I think at tight end they want to bring in 2 or 3 guys, and Redmond from San Diego State, I think they have a chance to get a commitment this weekend.
Good
That's
player.
Yeah, that's a guy that they think they can wrap up. Daquan Wright from Virginia Tech is still very much on the table, but he's blown up, I think, more than the staff initially thought. I think there's some big time schools in on him, but I think tight end they definitely want to revamp that position group. I think on the defensive line, I think a lot of people, they saw Cam Wilson go in the portal. Raheem Craig, Victorine Brown. I think Louisville's going to be in a good spot there. I think there's a couple people on that line that are in a position to return that maybe we had not thought about. I feel good about Jared Dawson, Des Tell, Mason Reiger, Jermaine Lole. I think is going to come back as well. And again, like I said earlier, and I'm not trying to give myself a cop out, but like when these players are deciding whether or not they want to come back or whether they want to go pro, there's a lot that goes into it. And there's, that could change. Like just the discussions going on behind the scenes and what they could potentially make if they do come back. That stuff changes. It really does. So, I think the interior of that defensive line, if you bring back your contributors and add to it, you feel good there. Offensive line, I think, Gonzalez and Ronaldo Brown, I think both of those guys are really like this staff and are 2 guys that have played a ton of football, and they should be back. So I think they probably want 3 starting caliber offensive lineman transfers to go along with Ronaldo, Michael Gonzalez, and Austin Collins will be back as well. And then a kid that I had totally forgotten about, Lance Robinson came in from Houston, I believe, this last go around, and that was actually his second school, so he had to sit out this year. Mm-hmm. And I had totally forgotten about him, but the way it was framed to me was if he was eligible this year, he would have helped Wade. So I think he's another guy that will get a good shot to start. So when you factor in Collins, Gonzalez, Ronaldo, and Robinson, you've probably got 3 or 4 starting caliber linemen there already. And then if you go out and get 2 or 3 more, there's your 7 or so that they like. Receiver, I think, Jamari Thrash, I asked this person, about him, and it's one of those that, it's just all about, the discussions and the negotiations. And, so I think he could return, but I'm not ready to call that one yet. So I think that's another position group that really want to upgrade the talent there. I think there's a couple guys they like, but again, like, they had to bring in a couple transfers last year, just to kind of fill some gaps there and just kind of, plug some holes. So I think this time around they're really gonna look for production, previous production there. Running back, I think Jawar, I don't feel as good about him returning as I did maybe yesterday, but again, like, these are just very fluid situations, and I think it's going to be another situation as you had this year where you kind of have maybe an RB1, and then you have a second running back that maybe fits the mold of a Garindo, where that just does some different things, brings some different things to the table. I think Chaney could fit the Garindo role really well for Miami, and that's a guy that they really like to kind of take that role on. And they were on him real early there. And Rocket Sanders from Arkansas is going to be in the mix.
Beast.
So I think the way it's put to me is they think they're gonna have some great backs there, and they the running back saw what Louisville produced this year at that position, so I feel good there. In the secondary, I mean, look, like MJ Griffin will be back, and Devin Neal will be back as well.
Oh, really? Neal's coming back?
Yeah, so Neal will be back.
Nice.
And look, like you couldn't ask for any more experience at safety than those two guys. That's I mean, those two guys have played a ton of football. And then at corner, I think one of the starters this year, I don't want to say a name just yet, but I think one of them is heavily considering returning there. And then the guy they won in the secondary is Will Lee from K-State. And what I was told is he could visit as soon as next week, and Louisville thinks they have a real live shot there. So
he's a big corner too, tall corner.
So yeah, so what they said he could be. You mentioned his frame. The way it was told to me is like he would be one of the better tackling corners that we've had here in a while. Just with his physicality and size, and
that's high praise with Jarvis Brownlee.
Yeah. And obviously A&M's on his list. And, when you recruit against A&M in the portal, I wouldn't go into it, with a defeatist mindset of you're never gonna beat them. It's more so a situation where like you gotta get the kid you're talking to kind of understand like A&M's gonna throw numbers out there. That's what they do. But when you peel back the curtain, the couple of their 2022, probably 5 or 6 of their 2022 guys in the 2022 class, have dipped out, and so like, if Louisville can kind of get in their ears and tell them like, hey, like make sure you do your homework there with A&M, and make sure you really make sure those numbers that they're throwing out, make sure those are real numbers. So I, recruiting against A&M is a beast in its own right, but I wouldn't just assume that A&M's gonna beat Louisville for every kid that they go up against. Obviously, it's not an ideal competition, but that's kind of maybe a misguided assumption there with A&M.
They should ask Evan Stewart his opinion on all of that. He was like their 5-star receiver who said he didn't even get a dime. So I don't know. We'll see. Ty, I wanted to ask you real quick. You mentioned tight end. I kind of wanted to get into that conversation. In my opinion, and obviously I think they should try to get a body or two in that room, but in my opinion, I think the position's in a much better position than what it was last year. I thought Nate Kariski really kind of held his own when he was in there. Joey Gatewood obviously had some moments, and then you have Jamari Johnson. We've also kind of heard rumors of Isaiah Cummings. Do you feel pretty strong about that happening, or no?
So with Cummings, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say there. I think it's more. I think he would like to come here, but it's like there's some stuff behind the scenes, with agents involved and whatnot, and what he's not off the table, but I don't know that he's like a guy that Louisville's going to jump on right away. I think he's a kid that would like to come here, but it's just kind of like being a general manager now, and you just gotta see like where you can allocate resources and what you can where you can get the most out of your resources. And I think that's kind of a conversation point with Shuck is like Louisville really feels like they got an NFL talent at quarterback as a steal. They really do. And, I think, some people, shot down the idea of Louisville adding another. I'm not going to comment any further on that. I posted what I know last night. I'm not going to say anything else there. I would just stay patient at quarterback and just see what happens there. And look, all the people saying, Pierce is going to get a shot. Like everyone in that room is going to get a shot. Like that's last go around it was mainly Plummer, and obviously I think Shuck's the favorite, but I think everyone's going to get a look there, and I think when you look at what Louisville got as far as a talent standpoint at quarterback and the way they were able to get him, a lot of people looking at Chuck in a different light. They feel like they really got a bargain there, and look, if you can surround him with talent and use your resources, surround him with the right pieces, Louisville feels like they can win enough games with him at quarterback and the right talent around him with Chuck at quarterback. So I'm not too worried about that spot. The staff, with the injuries, it's like the staff looked at the injuries, and the way it was framed to me is like a lot of staffs would look at those injuries and be like, nope, that's a no-go. But the staff, the way it was framed to me is like they just look at this kid as a football player, and broken bones are going to happen on the football field. Like it's part of it. It wasn't a turn off to them at all. And so they think that for what Chuck can bring and what he and what they can surround him with, they feel good about it.
So they're not super worried about the injuries per se. Like they've kind of done their homework on that and they feel good about it, or
they had the conversation about them. They, like I said, they just feel like when you play football, broken bones are going to happen. There's no lingering or nagging injuries. Like a hamstring, lingers a lot. When you have reconstructive surgery, that could kind of linger, but there's nothing like that there. They did their homework. They feel good about where he's at health wise. So yeah, I think they very much went over that, and they're very much in the boat that they'll take their chances with what they got there.
Yeah, and I think when you're a school like us who's on the rise, but not a Texas A&M, a Georgia, something like that, you've got to take some risks with high risk, high reward type players, which Shuck probably is with his injury history. But man, if he fills out that talent that he has here, and we surround them with receivers and good running back core.
Yeah, and like real quick on the quarterbacks, it's like when you look at like Kyle McCord and DJ, it's like, how much of an upgrade do you think those two are over a healthy Shuck? Because if you're not so sure how much of an upgrade they are, do you want to push all your chips from a resource standpoint in on a maybe more of a sexy name that they don't know that they're that much more of a home run than Shuck is. So yeah, it's just there's
makes sense.
A lot of factors at play there, and look, I know I'm not going to sit here and tell people that just close your eyes and trust the staff with quarterbacks. Like that's not my job. But they did their homework. They had the kid in for a multiple day visit. And look, like it's going to be up to the staff to communicate their plan and what they see in Shuck. And, that's up to them. It's not up to me. I don't want to tell anyone. I mean, I get the hesitancy from some of the fans, but look, that's the staff's job. We just have to assume and trust that they checked all the boxes they needed to check, and they kicked the tires that they needed to kick the tires, and look, I feel good that that's what they did.
Yeah. Ty, I got a question for you. I read I was perusing your update on the Rivals board, and any of our listeners, give Ty and Rivals a try. There's a lot of good info there.
A lot of good info. Yep.
And you've hit on a lot of this stuff you kind of wrote tonight, but one thing I kind of wanted to get into is not specific players, but our collective, which you'll get into talks with people and people say, is our collective great? Is it good? Can it compete with the top level schools? I know in your update you kind of said, hey, if it's not great, it's really good. So when you look at a pecking order of collectives, and I know we don't have all the info and stuff, but would you say that, we can at least compete, maybe not on the top level of a Texas A&M, but, right below those type of schools?
Yeah. I mean, with Will Lee, for example, the K-State transfer, like Louisville's not scared that A&M is in his final group of schools there. I mean, that kind of should. And look, if they don't get them, don't come, don't come, over the hills at me like, what? You told me we could outbid A&M. Like, no, I'm not saying that, but they're not going to shy away from a kid that has A&M in their finalists. And look, there's a lot of people that deserve a lot of credit with the collective and where it's at, but a guy that behind the scenes that I've really have a lot of respect for. Mark Spiegel started the 502 Circle, and he started a waste company, Rubicon, and he's put from the technology standpoint, and just there's a lot more that goes into a successful collective than the money. You've got to have the platform, you've got to have the like I said, the technology aspect of it, and Mark's done a great job there. And so yeah, I really like what the 502 Circle is doing. You can 100% guarantee that if you're making contributions, that it's being used, and the people that are allocating those funds are just as big of fans as everyone else is. That Mark grew up in Louisville. He went to Eastern High School. He graduated from U of L, and he moved down to Atlanta for business. But he's just a diehard fan that went to Josh Hurd and said, what can I do to make sure that we don't fall behind and that we're in a position to compete? And these conversations were going on, as long as 2 years ago. Mark started had a vision and really put it together well. And there's the people running that are fans at heart, and that's what you can feel good about. They want U of L to do well, and that's the best scenario. So yeah, I think it's like I said, you really can't. I can't sit here and tell you, that Louisville can for sure outbid X school, but it's just a case by case basis, and I think the best way to put it is I don't see NIL preventing Louisville from getting where they want to get. I think that's really kind of the long and short of it. Is the situation here is not one that's going to hold anything back. I think that's kind of the best way to put it.
I have a quick question. Somebody in the chat actually asked this too before, and I was like, that's a question I was going to ask, but I feel like every 2 seconds I look on Twitter, there's a new 5-star Texas A&M player in the transfer portal. Speaking of Texas A&M, I know about how we have to bid against him for future portal players that they're also interested in. But are we interested? Have you heard that we're in on any of these dudes that are leaving there? And to me, that would be a red flag too. So some of these guys coming in on visits, why in the world do they have 5-star to 5-star in droves and current players that are instant impact are jumping ship? Something's not right there. I know they had a coaching change, but I mean, my goodness, when you have that much talent, it's holy crap, where's it all going? So have you heard about any of those guys that we might be in on?
So Walter Nolan is the maybe the biggest 5-star to enter the portal from A&M, and I think he's probably going to go to Ole Miss or Tennessee. But yeah, it's a really weird dynamic down there because Elijah Robinson is their ace recruiter, and he's still coaching the team through the bowl game. But while he's coaching the team, he's also recruiting for a Syracuse staff that has some serious juice. So it's a weird situation there because he's still running A&M's practices and around the team, but he's also in the same breath recruiting for a different program. So it's a weird dynamic down there, and I think that they, I haven't heard Louisville connected to any of A&M's players, but just from a national standpoint, it's a weird dynamic down there. They've got a coach that's still coaching the team for the bowl game. That's also the main recruiter for a lot of these guys entering the portal.
Yeah.
And so, Elijah Robinson's having to balance like, hey, like I'm not telling any of these A&M guys that I recruited into the portal. I'm not doing any of that. I still got their best interest at heart, but at the same time, he's out there offering kids on behalf of Syracuse. So
I didn't know if we were in on any of those guys or not. I haven't heard a single name from
Yeah,
Texas.
I haven't. Like I said, it's A&M they've got all the money in the world, but I think from Louisville's perspective, when they recruit against A&M, if they can kind of get the kids and to try to do their homework and make sure that they're just doing their due diligence down in College Station, I think it's a situation where you just gotta make sure the kid knows that A&M's having some people leave. Yeah, Kyle. No, I haven't. To answer your question, I haven't heard any names from A&M to be connected to Louisville.
What happened?
I'm just going to go ahead and ask this, and I know you kind of mentioned it earlier. So, if you don't feel comfortable really diving into it, then don't. But we have seen on Twitter all the rumors, even despite the Shuck commitment of guys like DJU and Kyle McCord. Do you even think that was real, or do you what was your opinion on that? Because I know Pete Thamel had mentioned DJU and us, and I don't, Pete, I don't think makes that stuff up. He's as legit as it gets. But I'm just curious what your opinion on that was. Do you think that's even a possibility, or do you think it was just kind of smoke?
Man, I did get some clarity on that, but I don't know how much I'm allowed to share. I think the best way to put it is like, I don't know that the staff I don't know that they felt like McCord or DJ would be a home run in a way that Shuck wouldn't. I think the DJ stuff was more on DJ's end, but that's kind of really all I can say on that. There is Thamel. He did get it. He did get it from a good source, but it's just kind of some back channel stuff that I am not at the discrepancy to share just right now. But I think what I said about quarterback can kind of cover it, in that you really got to ask yourself, like, are either of those two guys a home run that is a major gap between them and Shuck? And I don't know that you can definitively say that. But yeah, that's kind of the best way to answer it.
And then my other question would be, we haven't heard a ton just yet about the receiver position. And do you know of any possible names there? I know you kind of mentioned there's still a chance that Jamari could come back, but any possible additions? I know a lot of the fans really want Deion Burks. I know that's obviously everybody does at this point. He's one of the top available guys, but
I want that Lacey kid.
Lacey is another one from South Alabama.
I don't think Burks is coming here. I don't really know. I don't have a great reasoning. I didn't really get one or ask for one, but I don't expect him to end up here. I think Colin Lacey's in play. There's a kid from Coastal Carolina in play as well. Jared Brown, I believe is his name. Xavion Thomas is an interesting one because he's been very hot and cold with Louisville from his high school days, even to last go around with the portal. I think Louisville may try there one more time, but The way it's framed to me is just like this position group will be one of the most talented wide receiver rooms that Louisville's had in a while. So, and I know people want names and me just saying that, I get if you don't believe me, but I would just kind of wait for the dust to settle there. I think with Amari, like, the staff, they like what he can do, and they'd like to have him back. Kevin Coleman, I think, is another guy that they want back and probably will be back. Chris Bell, they like, but I think just in general, I think they really feel like they need to get some elite talent in that room for this next year.
Yeah, so Jared Brown it looks like, I'm looking up his stats. So he had 58 receptions for 740 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he also had like 300 rushing yards, which that must be the offense that they run. I don't know. 300 rushing yards for a receiver.
Let's see.
It sounds like he's a player though. Or 252. So he had 15 carries for 252 yards. Good grief. The average yards per carry. Like, I need to go look at his highlights now. So Jared Brown, Coastal Carolina. I got to look up this dude's highlights, because if you have 15 carries for 252 yards, that's like, what, 15 yards a carry or more? I don't want to get too big into math here. I don't want to hurt my brain, but good grief.
They told me there was no math involved today, so
It's well over 10 yards, because 15 carries will be 150. It's damn near 20 yards a carry. I need to see what they're doing over there and how fast this kid is. That kind of gets me excited. Not even know, because I've never heard that name until now. So when Ty starts saying names I haven't heard, I immediately just go to Google, look up their stats, and then if they're really good stats, I'm like, okay,
One of the other guys I forgot. I got some pretty good intel on is Peebles from Duke. I believe he's going to Missouri this weekend. Someone can double check me on that. But the way it's worded to me is that he's right now, Louisville's going to get his final visit. And if he gets to the visit without a commitment, I expect him to be in a Louisville uniform next year. And that kid is just as highly regarded as Oben is. I didn't really get any good feedback on Oben. I don't really know what's going on there, but Peebles, I believe that's his name.
Yeah.
He's Peebles. If Louisville can kind of stay in contact and just keep him on the board until he gets to his visit, I think you should feel good about that one.
So on behalf of Macro, who's a very diehard pod listener, obviously Peebles would be a good player for him. I also want to ask about Thor out of Harvard. He's like 320 or 330 pounds, and like bench presses a bus. I mean, a dude's a beast. My understanding, last I heard, was that we had a really good shot at him, and he's supposed to be visiting this weekend. Have you heard anything different on him?
I have not heard anything on him now. I think like I said, I mean, I don't know how everyone felt about the D-line this year on the interior, but like you're going to get,
they were good.
Yeah, you're going to get Dawson back. You're going to get Tell back. I mentioned Lolays is looking like he's going to come back. So like you're going to get a lot of returning production there on the I think Dawson's a dude that like he's when you look like from a physique standpoint, he stands out. Like he's a big old boy. So I think there's going to be some continuity on that defensive line that carries over from this year. So I don't know. I'm not saying they're not going after Thor or anything, but I think they've got a really good foundation there to build off of from this year.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see the amount of interior defensive linemen that we're bringing in, considering all these guys returning. I think that was my biggest shock. I thought maybe we'd land one guy, but you're hearing about 4 or 5 guys, whereas like receiver, I thought we'd hear a whole bunch. Tight end, we are hearing a lot about, which that's one I expected. I thought I'd hear a little bit more about receiver and defensive back, which Lee out of K-State, that's a guy that we're in on, like you said. Haven't heard a whole lot of big names yet. But correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding here is that, we're going to be very selective this time, whereas last time we brought in waves of dudes because of the coaching staff coming in and kind of having to scramble. We bring in waves of guys, and we may have taken a bit more than we normally would have. And you kind of alluded to that earlier, but I'm guessing the reason why maybe the names we're not getting in droves like we were last time is it because they're being much more selective, you think, and saying like, hey, this guy may not be Louisville material going forward. So we're not going to go in on him, and we're kind of waiting for other guys maybe to jump in there.
Yeah, like I think people get caught up on just because like they're not hearing names that it means that they're not in on certain guys, and like there's sometimes keeping things under wraps gives you a better chance to land the kid.
Moving in silence.
Yeah, I was going to say, moving silence like lasagna is what you're trying to say, huh?
No, I'm kidding. Hey, this coaching staff has proven themselves.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I think this is a situation where everyone they want to bring in, they want to have that player with proven production at their previous spot. Even if that's at a G5 level, they want to see college football. They want to see tape from college football games from the guys they're bringing in versus just kind of taking flyers on guys that were buried on the bench at previous spots. So yeah, that definitely play into it a little bit. Until I'm proven otherwise, and I may end up with egg on my face. I don't anticipate that being the case. I'm going to remain extremely optimistic that this team next year is going to be in a very good spot.
So I did, running back is kind of a huge question mark. I think that, there he is. I think that it all hinges on Jawar really and his decision is my understanding. It doesn't sound like Garindo is going to come back. I think at one time he was kind of leaning towards, hey, I might come back. And now he's kind of back to, I don't think I'm coming back. So with that being said, we are in on a couple of guys. Rocket out of Arkansas had like 1,300 yards 2 years ago rushing, and he had like 200 or 300 receiving yards if I remember right. So like 1,500 total yards of offense, a beast. I assume he would only come here, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this from what you're hearing, I assume he would only come here in the event that Jawar does not come back. I just can't imagine now I'd love it. I can't imagine a backfield where both of those two guys are your running back one and running back two. I would assume that there's only one football and there's only so many snaps. So
I would be the most elite running back nickname group in the country. Rocket and Jaws.
Yeah, that's true. Rocket Jaws. And then also you talked a little bit about Chaney, and you did already kind of allude to him maybe replacing Garindo, which is what I assumed. Because if you look at Chaney Jr. out of Miami, he's a guy who he played this year, but he came off of, I believe, was it an ACL? It was an injury that had him sit out the entire previous season. But he averaged over 5 yards a carry this year and had 500 yards. That sounds kind of Garindo-esque as far as production. Now, can he catch as well as Garindo? Garindo, that's the most underrated part of his game is he could catch anything. That man could basically be a receiver out there. And then, of course, he returned punts. So I'm not sure if he can do that stuff. But rambling aside, I guess I'm kind of trying to figure out what the pulse is on the running back situation and if we think we have a good shot with both of those two guys or just one of them.
I mean, I think like myself and a lot of others were kind of looking at Jawar's social media activity as a sign he's returning, and there was some definite smoke there that he might, but I think they're recruiting as if they need to get a true RB1. And so, I mean, look, that could change. And like I said, I think you've got to recruit as if you don't have a fallback plan. Like you can't kind of recruit, half-ass and kind of hope Jawar returns. You got to go after the best available, and and just kind of figured that out later. So yeah, I think they're in the market for a difference maker there.
Yeah,
And I guess at this
we have a
point,
couple good ones coming in. Go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
I guess at this point we've come to the conclusion that Isaac is definitely not coming back, or is there still an opening there?
I don't think he is. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, like while the season was still going on, there was a good chance, but something may have changed there. It's like I like Kyle said, I think Chaney would be really just a perfect replacement for Garindo there. Anytime you can kind of keep that Miami pipeline, whether it's through the high school ranks or the portal, anytime you can keep those channels open, that's always a good thing. So I think I would probably operate under the assumption that Garindo's not going to be back. But I mean, look, like I mentioned, it's a lot of this stuff. There's a lot that goes into these decisions, especially now when there's money on the table. So it's just a different ball game when trying to predict who's coming and who's going.
I'd recommend anybody look up Donald Chaney's highlights for Miami. Now, in the old days, if they're banner pod, we'd throw it up there, but YouTube feds caught on to us and suspended us once for that, so we can no longer get on YouTube and do that. So those days are over. But he is a very explosive running back. He's a hard-nosed runner, and he kind of has that Frank Gore type of style. I'm not saying he's Frank Gore. Nobody take that to heart. I'm just saying that's his running style. He's a hard power runner, and I would love to see a guy like that, whether we, keep Jawar or not. I think he would complement Jawar very well. And, of course, the Arkansas kid, you can land – I mean, you obviously, for me, if you can keep Jawar and not land the Arkansas kid, Rocket, then – fine, great. But I'll tell you what, I don't think you miss much of a beat if the kid comes back fully healthy and is able to reproduce the same type of season he had 2 seasons ago. I mean, that's the best you could possibly ask for if you lose a guy like Jaws.
You can't forget about Mo Turner also. Like
if we can keep him, I agree.
Yeah, I didn't ask her, but or have anything else to add, but like, there's some really promising, like Kevon Brown. Like I think he could be a nice back.
Yeah, I really like Brown.
Like Duke Watson, I believe, is now a 4-star on Rivals. I believe someone passed that along.
Yeah, Duke's a beast.
He's coming in. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah. So Duke Watson is a 4-star now on Rivals. So, like you've got like Maurice Turner. Like he came in and gave Louisville their best run of the game against Florida State. Yeah. So like it's tough, and it's really tough to really balance, like, do you want to develop young guys or do you want to go out in the portal and get a proven commodity? It's a tough balance to manage, but I do like I think Kevon Brown, man, I really liked what I get it was against Murray State, but like he showed some really nice flashes. So, So I mean, I think even, I think it's just going to be one of those things. Like, if you do lose someone from out of that room, you should probably assume that means that someone's coming in. But that room, I mean, it's in a good spot. And look, you saw what Brom did this year with Jawar and Isaac. So, that it shouldn't be hard to sell a running back on production.
Yeah. So I will say,
go ahead.
With running backs and the way the game is today, that I think more so now you see, especially in college, running backs know they've got to save their body. So they're not as upset if they're not getting time their freshman, sophomore year. Obviously, Turner's, over that hump now, and I'm sure he wants to probably see some more carries, but I wouldn't worry about freshmen and trying to get them carries and stuff, because I think running backs, with the life that you have, both in college and if you want to go into the pros, like you don't want that wear and tear on your body where, hey, I'm a stud freshman and I'm going to start carrying it 20 times a game as a freshman. That, you do that for 3 years and you've shortened your NFL life maybe. So I think that that's why you always see, in the running back room, you'll see guys who, I mean, even Jawar was here for 2 years before he kind of took over the reins. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jawar is a perfect example of a guy that just kind of waited his turn. And look, you never know. You could start the season as a 4th-stringer and 2 weeks into the season become a 2nd-stringer just because of injuries and wear and tear. So, yeah, I think Louisville could definitely use Jawar as an example to some of the other guys they have in the room of just be patient and just be ready. I think that's a really good case study that they have at their disposal when it comes to running backs. And I think another thing is, I think running backs also, you mentioned, they know that they have a cap on their bodies, but I think, if Louisville can kind of develop a reputation for pass catching running backs, like that could be another way for guys to get on the field, because if you can be a threat to catch the ball in the backfield, that's a skill set that translates to the NFL. So, finding a way to develop that as well. I mean, I know they hit on some nice screens in this running back screens in the season, but that's just another way to kind of get the ball in the running back's hands. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to hold on to everyone there, but and I think it would definitely be awesome, just because I think Jawar is, like, I'm not saying I prefer one way or the other, but I think Jawar is really, I think this city and his fan base has really grown to love him. And I think a return announcement would get people even more juiced up than a commitment from Rocket Sanders would. And I'm not saying that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
But I just feel like when you
already here.
Yeah, when you have someone here that's been an ambassador for this program like Jawar has, and really is, he wasn't the same running back, but he played, and a lot of people would have hung it up and packed it in. And that was definitely, like, Jawar, like, that was definitely something that he had to consider. But he didn't. He played through it. And so I think a return announcement would just really kind of get people, I think that would, get people even more excited than a big commitment out of the portal would. But I think either way, Louisville will be fine there.
So my last question, Ty, about all the portal stuff. Obviously, last year, I think we had a really good year in the portal. I mean, we saw where people were rating a top 3 class, top 5 class, and it was his first go around. Obviously, I know you've heard this. I've heard of this. Multiple people have heard. This is going to be better than last year. This is going to be an even better offseason portal class than what we brought in. Do you still feel that way now that we're underway?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all just comes down to, like, if you base your opinion off rankings. So, like it's just going to, like, I don't know, from a number standpoint, if I can't imagine that they'll be, especially with some of the returns on the table, I don't think they're going to be in a position to need to take as many as they did last time around. But I think from a quality standpoint, I think this will be better. Yeah, I do.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Well,
You love
Ty,
to hear
I didn't know if you wanted to stick around for the game of the century talk in basketball for Depaul, or if you had to step off. That's up to you if you want to stick around, because it's, I mean,
I'll stick around, but
okay.
Let me drop this and I'll get on the basketball. And this didn't come from any conversations I had tonight. This is just, I would just pay attention to this. If you noticed, there was a very prominent player on Kansas State's team that was dismissed. And I don't think Jerome Tang is too happy with his bosses for that decision. So
Tang Gang, Ty Elliott.
The Tang Gang lives.
Tang Gang.
Tang
Hey,
Gang,
Jeff
Tang
left.
Gang, Gang.
Jeff left. Are you on here, brother? Tang Gang.
Oh, is
So
Jeff part of
Naquan
Tang Gang?
Tomlin is a dude that played a huge role in Kansas State's run to the Elite Eight last year.
Yeah.
I believe he's a 6'11" center. And he was suspended from the team and I believe he got arrested or something maybe over the summer. But Jerome Tang is not happy. The way it was put to me, he is not happy with the decision that was made to kick that kid off the team. So I would just chew on that, and you can read into that what you may.
Oh, hey, I'm for it.
I have read into it, and I'll tell you what it means. Tang gang.
Yeah.
Tang gang.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the kid, but that sounds like good news to me. So
Yeah.
Good news for us, maybe. But first,
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know anything around the kid. More so for me, it's just you look at a lot of the you just look at the coach's relationship with their AD and the president and the administration. And I think that decision came, I believe it came from the AD or the president at K-State. Yeah, I would just say that.
Jeff, you're always hating about Tang to Louisville. Come on, man.
I would just say that I think Jerome Tang is not too happy about that decision that was out of his control. So obviously that's not. I mean, I'm not gonna go into. We're not gonna do anything like that until there's an opening here. But this is coaches putting their names out to agents that they would be interested. That stuff happens year round. So I would say tonight may be a turning point with Tang and K-State as far as how happy he is there.
Yeah. I was reading some stuff while you were talking there, Ty, and I think it's pretty telling that the announcement on Tomlin's dismissal came from the AD and not Tang. Usually the coach is handling those announcements, not the athletic director. So.
And because of that,
unless you're so pissed off that you're like, you don't want to send me out there.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think Jerome Tang's going to be tuned into the game of the century, and that is Louisville versus DePaul.
Well, not only Tang, but every coach in America that's not playing at that time, because it is the game of the century. 2 Goliaths, 2 Titans in the Power 5.
Power 6 in basketball.
Power 6. That is correct.
Yeah.
I appreciate the correction. We do not need to get things wrong about this game. So this is the return of a boss. We get to see Churchill Boss could drop a 2020 double-double on us, because Kenny Payne, in the prime peak of portal season, took a trip, got on a plane, then instead of taking a taxi, he had to ride a camel all the way to a hut, go meet up with Churchill Boss somewhere in Africa, take several days out of his time just to say, hey, I wanted to meet you to let you know you're not good enough to come to Louisville, but thanks for your consideration. All right, nice to meet you.
You forgot the canoe ride.
Yeah. Then he took the camel back, hopped on the plane, came home, didn't land half the guys we could have landed in a portal, I assume, if we would have been recruiting then. Now we get to see Churchill Boss, among other things. And also
he's killing it tonight.
DePaul is the one other school that my understanding was interested at one time in Coach Kenny Payne as a head coach. And I believe it was the year before he came to Louisville, if I remember right, but my timeline could be a little off, so don't quote me on that. But I do remember at one time that was the only other school I remember that ever considered hiring him, and obviously that didn't happen. He came to Louisville. They have had a year that looks very much like what we had last year. I mean, when you go down the schedule and look at the games they played, it's very, very fascinating to look at.
We're talking about the DePaul schedule right now.
DePaul, they are right now as we speak. They're down 28 points.
Yeah, I was going to say it's currently 62-30. Texas A&M at halftime.
Oh,
and so it's worse than that. And Churchill Abbas is 1 of 1 from the field, 2 points and a rebound. So
I'm guessing it was a dunk. How much you want to bet?
Probably.
The big news there is only 1 personal foul though for Churchill.
So
yes,
just for reference, DePaul lost by 10 to Northern Illinois. They lost by 16 to San Francisco. They only lost by 5 to South Carolina. That's actually surprising.
19 to the Iowa State.
Yeah, 19 Iowa State. I actually skipped that one because that's not nearly as bad as they did beat South Dakota. That's their one win. They lost by 4 to Long Beach State. That's a name you may remember from a tournament like 5 or 6 years ago. And Fort Wayne beat them by 8. So
Fort Wayne.
Purdue Fort Wayne beat them by 8 points.
Stand up, Fort Wayne.
That reminds me a lot of us last year. Now, I don't think we had won a game yet this time, so they do have that going for them. But, I actually expect us to win this game. I do. I know the ESPN predictor has like 66%. I don't know what their metrics are. 66% DePaul, 33% us. The one caveat is we have not won a road or a neutral game under Coach Kenny Payne. So there is that mental hurdle potentially. I just think DePaul is slightly better than Coppin State. Like, I think they could probably beat Coppin State by 10 points. And that's about as far as I'll go with them. I just think they're absolutely awful. I think we are better than we were last year. Last year's Louisville team versus this year's DePaul team would be the matchup of a lifetime because I don't think either team would win. I think they'd still be playing today if they would have played this game last year because nobody could find a way to beat the other team. So if I had to guess, I think we're going to have enough firepower to at least outlast DePaul. I think we'll win by anywhere from about 8 to 12 points, give or take. I don't know what you guys think.
No, I think the big question is how many free throws are we going to shoot?
Oh, dude, it's hard to watch, man. Like
under at 52.
It's a good strat. It kind of reminds me of UK. And Ross was a prophet on here. Ross got on here and said if we're smart, because we don't run a very sound, we don't have a lot of pieces that mesh well together, we'll do the UK 2014 method that they did under Calipari when KP was an assistant, with the Harrison twins would just ram in there and junk. And then we do that a lot, actually. So he was right on that.
It wasn't the Harrison twins. Julius Randle was like a bull in a china shop, dude.
Well, him too.
2014 team.
Yeah.
It was all of them.
He would get to his left hand. He would lower his head, and he would just ram to the basket and get fouled. I mean, Julius Randle drove me nuts throughout that season, just the way he played. I mean, it was just strictly to get fouled. But I honestly think, like, I know everyone likes to complain about refs, but I feel like we've gotten a very, very favorable whistle.
We have, absolutely.
I mean, the Yum whistle has been very, very friendly to Louisville this year. I mean, I know the charge block in the whatever game that was. I can't even keep them straight. I know that one was questionable, but even that game was very favorable. The New Mexico State, I mean, man, we got a very favorable whistle there. But
UMBC, we hacked them at the very end.
Yeah.
Trey White did. They just swallowed the. They literally they were calling stuff that was much more petty than that on both teams, and for whatever reason that play, like, we're not going to call that one, and that would lost us the game.
I feel like Texas was the only game we got screwed in.
That's true, and that's why I cancel out Texas and UMBC because I feel like both of those games kind of canceled out.
Yeah, I was mainly talking about games at Yum, but speaking of Texas, I don't think they're going to end up being as good as people think. They just got the break speed off of them tonight.
Future, you should have been on here earlier with us. We talked a lot of football for the first 50 or so minutes.
Yeah, so
check it out.
Texas got the break speed off of them tonight.
I'm
not saying I think Louisville had a great performance against them, but I don't know that Texas is going to be.
No, and I bet Shaka was out there for blood. I know Shaka, from what we've heard, is not very interested in leaving Marquette.
Yeah.
Ty's all about that.
Stinky Shaka is what I like to call him. And I see Shaka's
really
daddy. Good. Shaka's daddy has entered the chat today too. He said, "Wish we landed Reed Shepherd."
Is that that's your burner, Ty?
That's actually my burner. Yeah,
that's definitely you because Shaka would be great here.
But when you look at Shaka, I think you can thank Texas for him not being interested in any potential job. And he just got. I mean, he's.
Thank you, Texas.
He's just so comfortable at Marquette. He just I think he knows he's in a great spot, and he just feels like the experiment at Texas really just left a sour taste in his mouth for any potential big job. So I don't know that he'll be interested.
Well,
if it does.
Shaka, take it from me. Now, first of all, don't listen to Ty. He's never had a good opinion about
Shaka,
coaching
listen to
third.
me. You'd hate it here, bro. It'd be awful.
Obviously, Shaka, you probably listen to Third Banner Pod Wednesday night. You're still playing, but you'll listen after the game. I'm sure you'll like get on your Spotify, upload it, and want to know what we think. What you did at Texas, you went away from your system. We won't make you do that here. Bring that system from VCU and Marquette. Bring it to Louisville. Now, obviously, he's not that interested from what we've heard. Maybe that can change. You never know, but I don't anticipate it changing. So I don't know what's going on with Tang at Kansas State and his president, but Tang gang all the way, Ty. We can agree on that one.
We will always agree on Tang gang.
So I will say, not to get on the Texas subject, but Texas is like the place where college basketball coaches go to die, man. I mean, Rick Barnes was there forever. He had some really good players. Never really made a deep run in the tournament. He's better off now at Tennessee.
I call him blow it Barnes because he get in the tournament, he just blow it.
Yeah, and
so what do you
Shaka
call
looks
Shaka
like he's better off at
tournament?
Marquette, and you've got
what do I call Shaka? Sensational Shaka.
When he gets to the tournament, what do you call him?
Sensational Shaka. He's got a Final Four.
Sensational.
I don't care about his time at Texas. Everybody brings, well, what about Texas? Like, I used to be a alcoholic drunk every night, but I haven't.
I call him shaking in his boots, Shaka, when he gets to the tournament. That's what I call him.
My house now and go, oh, Kyle, are you going to get drunk tonight? I'm afraid you might, because that one time 10 years ago, you were hammered. You don't remember anything. You passed out in your front yard.
Okay, but Kyle, you're also
10 years ago, brother.
You're also
glossing. Shaka has a completely different system. I don't care what he did at Texas.
You are glossing over the fact that he was at VCU for like 4 more years after the Final Four. It did nothing.
It didn't make another one at VCU. Okay,
he didn't make it out of the first round.
So he's not Brad Stevens. He didn't make
can't make it out of the first round. He couldn't make it out of the first round.
Don't care. Shaka's sensational Shaka. Nonetheless, we do
shit
have
my
a coach.
pants Shaka when he gets to the tournament.
We do have a coach, so we need to be at least somewhat mindful. I think we all know where this is going. It's a matter of time. I don't mind saying, because it got out there. I know at one time it was kind of not out there. It got out there, but I know the Bellarmine game was a big time, like, hey. And I get where people are frustrated. We're like, well, why would there be like a one game that would matter more than the others? And if he wins, why would that keep him? Well, I think here's the thing. I think we all know where this is going, but it's kind of like, okay, if you're on your way to a divorce and you've filed papers and you're separated, but you still live at home together, it's awkward enough. But losing to Bellarmine will be the equivalent of like you bringing another partner into the house while we're separated, but we're supposed to be living together. Like, okay, it's ramped up now. Now you need to get the F out. Like, we're done. Like, now it's like ramped up to like DEFCON level 10. That's kind of what it would have been if we lost to Bellarmine. It's like, yeah, let's see how this goes. Let's give it time. But if we lose to Bellarmine, especially without their best player, like, okay, we're going to ratchet this up a little bit. And I don't know. I don't have any information this time around. I just wonder, Depaul is not good. What happens if we lose to Depaul? Because if it was that close, when we were going to lose, if we lost to Bellarmine, I mean, we did end up squeaking by that game, and then we lost again to Virginia Tech, which I think we're going to find out Virginia Tech's probably not what we're used to them being the last few years either, but we'll see. So then the question becomes, what if we lose to Bellarmine? What if we lose to DePaul? Like I said, I'm predicting we're going to win anywhere from 8 to 12 points, and maybe we win by even more. Because that's just not a good basketball team. Are we having this conversation again if we do end up losing? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I think we should, but you know more than me, but I think the significance of Bellarmine is they're in our city. They were a D2 school not too long ago, and to lose to them twice in a row. That's what I think the key to the Bellarmine, if that loss happened, what we'd be looking at Nolan Smith or Danny Manning running the team if either one of them wanted to.
Yeah, that last part's the key. I don't know.
but yeah, DePaul should be a win, and a loss there should definitely speed up the process, but I'm not sure if it would.
Yeah, I don't know. When I ask that question, I don't ask it knowing the answer. I'll put it that way. It's just, I don't know. At some point, you're making a decision. Are we just going to not have fans at the arena at all? Are we just going to have disengaged fan base? Which, if you can put a string together of wins, even if they're ugly, you're going to get a few people back on board. I do think there's a ceiling on how much engagement you're going to get, and it's a very low ceiling. But I think you can get a little bit more. But if you start losing with the way things are now, people aren't really buying in. Like, is there a loss on the schedule that just like jump starts it again, where it's like maybe we need to make a quick decision here. I'm looking at that DePaul game, and I mean, you have a week to prepare for that game too, almost a week. And it's just like, if you go out there and you're sleepwalking and you lay a dud, I don't know.
Arkansas State might be one of those two. They're 2-7.
Yeah, and that's
I actually really like Arkansas State's coach. He was assistant under Oates. I believe his name is Brian Hodges, and he's got like 2 top 150 kids coming in next year. He's got some juice, and they play a style where they just shoot like they play a Nate Oates style where it's all threes and layups. So I wouldn't be surprised if that game's close. I like that coach a lot, but yeah, I mean, they're not any good. I mean, you should win. I mean, you should win these next 3 games fairly easily. And I'm not saying that if you do that there shouldn't be any credit or any praise. Because, I mean, look, winning 3 games, I mean, that –
3 games at this point. Desperate times call for desperate measures. We win 3 games in a row. I might shoot off the gun again outside of my country backyard and let it go viral again like I did when Ruben Owens committed, which, by the way, ended up being the most wasted local viral video. I finally made it locally, and then for nothing. Anyway, that aside, I mean, that's where I'm at. A desperate times call for desperate measures. I might have myself a party if we win 3 games in a row. I don't care who the hell it's against.
So what do you all think? What is your all's take on like the team, being, more nervous at home and playing better like away from the young?
They don't play. I mean, they've never won a game away. I've seen that argument, and I actually, quoted a tweet about a week ago. And I was like, this is just utter blasphemy. And I said, with all due respect, this is utter blasphemy. I'm not saying that people aren't playing nervous or tight at home, but I don't think it's because they're at home, especially when there's not very many people there. The thing is, the people that are there are very loyal diehards that I think are probably cheering no matter what. And props to them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like, I don't think it's like these hardcore, like, I'm coming to this game tonight and I'm going to boo the hell out of them if they suck. Because, like, those people are the ones that are like, I'm not coming to that game. I'm done. Like, if those people, you have those people engaged in being, like, obnoxious for about a few games maybe. But if you continue to lose, they're the ones that say, screw this, I'm done, I'm leaving. And then you're left with the rest. And then the other thing is, if we had a better road and neutral court record than we do at home, that argument would make more sense. But literally every game we've won has been at the Yum Center. So I just don't understand that logic.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the games that I've been to at home this year, like the people that are there, I mean, they're like as positive as you can be. Like, and look, all credit in the world of the people doing that. Like, those are the fans that – like every fan base needs. Like, you need those people that are going to show up. They're going to cheer their asses off, and they're going to be positive no matter what. Like, every fan base needs those people. And look,
props to them.
My experience, the people that are at those games, I mean, they're being as positive as they can be. They're overly supportive. I haven't heard any boos the games that I've been at. Like, so I'm with you on that call.
Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't know. Do you guys have anything else tonight? We talked about portal recruiting. For anybody that missed it earlier, feel free to, rewind it back to the very beginning. Ty Spalding, Louisville Rivals publisher, joined us, broke down what he's hearing in the portal. And we talked about a lot of that. And then we just finished up with the game this week in the game of the century, Louisville versus DePaul, with the entire nation watching this game because they want to see sound basketball at the highest level of the Power Six. So did you guys have anything else for us? Ty, Elliot, Patrick?
Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I've kind of grown. I know people are skeptical on Chuck. I've watched some film. He's grown on me. I like the talent there. I like his ability to be able to run, throw the ball down the field. I'm excited if he can stay healthy because I think we're going to see a different offense next year. Not that our offense wasn't good this year. It was very good, but it's going to be a more, I think, fast-paced, big play offense next year. Whereas this year it was kind of a grind it out, keep the ball in your bread and butter, the running back's hands. I'm excited about Chuck and seeing what he can do here.
I totally agree. Let's just hope he stays healthy. He's got the talent. We've talked about it. You could see it. Just hope he stays healthy. And then I wanted to also mention, anybody that doesn't have a subscription or doesn't check it out, go check out Ty Spalding. You can find him on Twitter at Ty Spalding. Check out his Rivals site. He's always dropping good stuff there, and he's good to us to come on here.
Works hard
and
provide
share
good information.
Share great stuff. So go give him a shout out. Go check him out, guys. And we can't thank him enough for coming on tonight.
All right. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And again,
like and subscribe. The more likes we get, the more portal commitments we will get. So just keep those likes up.
All right. Thank you, guys. Go Cards. Go Krogering.
Let's go Cards.